seminar. I think we can start. And my name is Sara Kåll-Fröjdö. I work at Centria University of Applied Sciences, and I'll first give you a short introduction on ICH North, the project. And after that we will have talks by our project crew on different interesting topics. So just a few words on the project first, so you know the framework. Our project is funded by Interreg Aurora, and on the map you can see the program area. It's in the north of Finland, Sweden, Norway, including Sápmi. This is a cross-border project, which means that we have worked across the borders on several different activities during the years. The project started in February 23, and we are now heading towards our final half year, so the project will end in December 25. And our main objectives is to promote cross-border collaboration in order to promote musical intangible cultural heritage. ICH means intangible cultural heritage, it's an abbreviation. And we have been working to build bridges between communities, education organizations and other organizations. And together we have worked to get more visibility for the musical heritage. And the bottom-up approach has been extremely important for us, according to the UNESCO framework. So we have worked a lot with co-creation with heritage communities. And here you can see the project partners. There are 8 organizations in all. Kulturens bildningsverksamhet in Sweden had to cut down their organization, and Svenska Folkdansringen stepped in their place and took the rest of the budget and will finish the project. But we have the Finnish Folk Music Institute, and we have Centria University of Applied Sciences, Novia University of Applied Sciences, Kultur Österbotten. We have Västerbotten County Museum, Västernorrlands County Museum, sorry. And then Svenska Folkdansringen, and in Norway, the Arctic University of Norway, UIT. But then, more important, we have around 25 associated partners, that is organizations active in the field of music heritage in the program area. And associated partners are not in the project with a budget, but they have taken part of the activities and contributed to the project as much as they have wanted themselves. We do have some national co-funding from Lapin Liitto in Finland, from Troms Fylkeskommune in Norway, and Region Västernorrland in Sweden. And also Nordisk Kulturfond, Svenska Kulturfonden have been funding our project partners. And then the project partners themselves have some of our own funding in the project. Why ICH North? Why have we done this project? Well, first of all, this area have a very rich and distinctive musical heritage. And music have crossed borders overall in all time, and practitioners and music with them. And this is a field that have quite small funds in personnel and funding, and joining forces and doing things together have been a way of sharing resources and getting a lot done together that couldn't be done by one part. And we have the program area up north. We have long distances, it's sparsely populated, and safeguarding is something that's very important, and we have done a lot of activities that will promote safeguarding of the musical heritage. And it's important to remember that musical heritage is any living heritage that one individual have learned and want to pass on to future traditions, future generations. And the picture here in the presentation is a screenshot from a digital map showcasing communities and their way of passing on traditions. And this is a really nice example from Västernorrland. Felicia Schelina interviewed hockey supporters that have their chants that they pass on to future generations, and this is also a form of musical heritage. We have 5 so-called work packages that are the activities of the project. We have a massive open online course that will be finished this autumn, and Annika Mylläri Kati Hyvönen will talk more about this later on. There will be a digital map of the musical communities showcasing their way of practicing and transmitting their musical heritage. We have a working package that is educational material on musical heritage for non-formal education. We have one work package that deals with musical heritage, entrepreneurship and cultural tourism. And the picture here is one example of the outcome of work package number 4. It's Folk Like a Local poster. So if you scan the QR code, you will get to a YouTube list with music from Ångermanland and Medelpad. And this is something you could easily print out and put in a museum, a shop, a camping site, like board somewhere, and it's a way of showcasing musical heritage and making it visible both for those that live in a place but also those that are visiting. And finally, the 5th working package is a joint strategy for community involvement in safeguarding musical heritage for archives in the Aurora area. There will be a strategy and a roadmap ahead coming this autumn. Oops. The seminar program today is the following. Soon we will have Rosa Gabriel talking about the musical living room, a social inclusion pilot. And then we will have Outi and Heidi talking about culturally sustainable field trips to historical folk music. Then we will have a talk on Polska as living heritage. Johanna will talk about what happens when we pass on traditions. And then Annika and Kati will talk about the MOOC, the massive open online course. And we will have some time for discussion in the end. If you want to have more information on ICH North, you can visit our project website. We have monthly newsletters coming out every month until December. And if you happen to be in Härnösand in November, please come and visit us on November the 19th. We will then publish all the final results of the project. So I think it's time for me to ask Rosa and Gabriel to come here. Thank you.
Hello everyone. So I will be presenting the Musical Living Room project that we have been running in Jakobstad. We began in last autumn, just discussing, and the actual playing was starting in January, so it's quite recent project. So yeah, welcome to the Musical Living Room. It's a project that works for social inclusion through traditional music, and it's a pilot in Jakobstad, Pietarsaari. So the presentation will have these parts. We will have the seeds, that is the preparing the project, how did we plan, how did we prepare. Then we will have the growing, so like the actual sessions that we met and we played with the musicians. And then some reflection at the end, with some vision for the future and feedbacks. So this is the structure for today, and this beautiful picture. So the first steps were done together with this group of people. We were 4 women. We met and we started to plan. Okay, how can we do this? Work on social inclusion through traditional music. And then we came up thinking of, imagine a living room where cultures meet, stories are told, and everyone contributes to the soundtrack. That's what musical living rooms is all about. It is an open invitation to play, to sing, to dance, and socialize with people from all walks of life. Share the musical traditions and discover the beauty of others, all while building a community that thrives on inclusion and creativity. This is the text that came after our meetings, and Johanna also, she was the one working on the project at the beginning. So this is the result. So how are the next steps, and how do we collect the people, and how do we create this space that we thought to represent like a living room? How to do it, no? We also read some so we decided to meet and to play, and then we met and we shared each other some tunes. So we wanted the musical living rooms to be spontaneous, to be fun, to be a safe place for everyone who joins, and also to be inclusive and multicultural. Jakobstad is also there is many diversities of countries living there, so a place that could be meeting different cultures. Low threshold, so people who play instrument, but also people who don't play but likes to be around music. So we had a very open space, because we aimed maybe to white people as also intergenerational. We thought it's good to not limit only to this age. But then the challenging is coming, like how do you actually collect these people? That could be everyone. How? Yeah, so we also read some inspiring projects to learn what has been done around, and this is inspired by a study carried out in Wales, and it talks about well-being and integration through community music. It's a very interesting project. It's 2 years long, the study they have done, so it's, yeah. And, well, they say when participants go home from the sessions, they will be able to talk with the friends about the people they have met, the songs, or the food they have shared. So the food they have shared, we thought is also a good point, because food makes also people more relaxed and happy, isn't it? Sometimes together with the music. And yeah, so I mentioned music is a language we all understand. So this we inspired. Then it came the material, this material they prepared. Join our musical living rooms, and then we agreed to be Mondays in the evening. It was in the winter, so we thought 5:30 is okay. People have dinner at 5. Maybe it's a little bit tight, because I think people have food 5. So yeah, but and we decided to make it in a music cafe after 8. In Jakobstad is a very social place, and yeah, they organize also concerts there. But the only problem is that at that time it was closed. They just opened it for us, and then no one was running there. So yeah, I already advanced a little bit what happened. But this is the place. It's a open place, a cafe, so they let us have tea, coffee. The project organized ICH, so then we could have some drink. That was a good point. And this is another poster. Here it mentions socializing through music. Bring your instrument, tap on the table, or sing, dance, or just come and listen. So we thought people can come and just be sitting there and painting or talking. So we thought that that would be a good environment if people are around. Not everyone has to be playing, but we aimed at this. And then, yes, that was the beginning and the presentation, preparation, and then this is the growing. So we did the first session end of January, almost beginning of February, and at the beginning only 2 people came. We were waiting there, who will come, we don't know. They hung posters and they sent to many organizations in Jakobstad these posters, but only 2 people came, so we were, but still it was good. And then the next session there were 3. Okay, good. And then we had 5 sessions, so then at the last session we were some people. We were, yeah, so you can see that we had the tables and we were sitting around the table, and yeah. So it was a good success that after the 5 sessions we got some more people new coming at the end. So it was a pity that, okay, now it's over, now it's finished. And yes, but I have some videos from what we did in these sessions. I'm not so good in recording and being very much in the social media, but I got the idea to film a little bit in the feed, because I also had to play and a little bit be active, so I don't know how to do both things. But it's not so good video, but I think it's okay for you to listen a little bit. So we were. One participant shared this song. So we didn't bring all the songs for them. We were 2 leaders at that time, and yeah, we just had some songs with us, but then the others were asked, do you have some song you want to share with us? So then it was quite informal in that sense, like talking about how did you learn to play the instrument, and yeah, then this violin player shared this song and we all played it. And then we also involved some singing, and then, for example, we were learning this song also, for example. Yes, so it's not always easy for someone who doesn't know the language to, of course, learn to sing in another language, because there were some people who didn't speak all Swedish in this case. So we also face this challenge. If you want to learn a song from someone else, traditional, you have the lyrics, it's not that kind of fast, you need to, yeah, language. But yeah, this was the meetings. And as you see in this photo, we also had sometimes some score, but some people felt more comfortable without. So some people didn't use score. One violin player just plays by ear, but some other people, like the guitarists, that we had many guitarists coming actually, they also like or to look to each other the chord or have the chords written down. Yeah. So from the participants it was quite good, like positive comments. They enjoyed because we did some questionnaire and yeah, they answered as well. So that it was pleasant, social. They also willing to continue, and that is good. And from the leaders, we had this idea of a portable living room. So it would not be in the same place always. So we could be able to say, okay, now we do it in the main main lobby, in the music center, where there is Campus Allegro in Jakobstad. We could meet there, or we could meet in this other cafe. So we could have it a little bit moving living room. And also like to be more exposed to people, because in that case we were in this cafe that was quite empty. There was no people around. If it would have been in the lunchtime, yes, many people is there, but at that time, unfortunately, it was perhaps bad decision in that sense that no people was coming. What are they doing? This? They are playing. Then it's also more easy to spread. And very good positive feedback as well that okay, it's coming more and more people. Yes. So. And then after that, these were these 5 sessions. Five sessions in winter, and now in the spring, like in May, I got this role to continue until end of August. So then we did some sessions with some of the winter participants. We had a WhatsApp group, and we organized more spontaneous meeting, like let's meet next week, not too much of advertisement because the time was limited. So let's meet. And then we met in Fika Cafe, and then we also met in the gardens. We were playing outside in the gardens, so that was very good. And we played very diverse, not only folk music, but the songs that they wanted to play as well. So very open in that sense. And also we did some group dynamics, like at the end, for example, sharing one word each. How has it been the session today, to close up? And then some people said connection, some people said fun, or people could say some feedback. And it was a very nice way to close up as well the session. Yeah. At that time it was very interesting also because we mixed, we came up thinking that a valse from here was fitting with one Nepalese song. So it was like, the things, melodies connect, and that was very beautiful. But then you have to a little bit make some kind of arrangement because of course you have to change the 2 songs. But it was very interesting that melodies kind of actually come cousins and mix. And then I did some workshops in EHIA. Jakobstad is an organization that they work with refugees and immigrants coming to Jakobstad. So then there might come some people who know some music from other countries. So I thought, let's go there. Because actually one of the leaders came to the musical living rooms in winter, and she presented herself, but she was just listening there because she received the poster but she didn't know what it was about, so she came. And then the young people didn't come because we have to go there. So that's why I went there, and now I'm starting to meet them. They say there is some people who play instruments, but they don't have the instruments perhaps with them because they left them in their country. So we are in this process now of working with them, and also with this daytime activity for young people without work or school. And yeah, there is also people who play instruments, and they were happy and interested. So this was just in June, that to collect people also, I went directly to their places to find the ones. So these workshops were different looking because people were not playing an instrument. So I brought some instruments with me, and we also did some body percussion, some singing, and yes. So I also had these instruments that I have with me. I play also, and at the last part of the workshop, for example, we also let them listen. And they also had a small kind of, there were 3 participants plus 2 leaders, and so they were joining to this kind of relaxing and very careful sounds. So they really enjoyed to play some small instruments, very careful, and be part of the sound. But the workshops that with no instruments, so we were singing. Also, I taught them some body percussion. We had some shakers and the singing bowls. So we could look at this link from this ECHIA. They posted in Instagram some feedback, so they were happy that this was happening, and they posted this video. Like this, yes. And now I don't see how to put the volume. How to put the volume now? Because now it lost. I put it to the... Yes, so now you can put music to it. You can put down the word. Yeah. Thank you. It's good though. It's very fast, but they made this kind of video. It's good, they make something and they show. So you see, we were around the table, they had food also, so it was very nice that the organization, it's already like a living room feeling. And yes, so now I have to close. Yes. And then there were also some other workshops that they had instruments. So one participant came with the guitar, so it was very nice that he started to play, and then the other ones could join with some small percussion. So easily we made a rhythmic section, and it was very, very positive for them. I think they enjoyed. So we discussed also about the benefits for the participants to do some music and to learn some. Yeah, and one of the leaders of this, she mentioned that to do some body percussion, the clapping, it's so good for the brain because it's the 2 hemispheres are working and connecting, and some of the participants have big traumas because they have had to go through wars or some very terrible situations. So this kind of activities, it was to do music, to be in the rhythm, to be in the beat, to be part of the music, it was very beneficial for their system. Yeah, so to work holistic in a way. So they were very positive into this kind of activity, and it's a pity because it was the summer, so many participants didn't come to these workshops because in June already everyone starts to work and so on. So now this is just the beginning, and in August I think these two groups, they will encourage more people, and we will meet more participants who play instruments, and they will join the musical living room. So I think it's going in this direction. For now, the fruits. So the vision for the summer is also to visit some elderly home and to play there for them also, so that we also share our music. Not need to make a concert, but just to play. And then also inspired by the Living Heritage Summer Bingo that ICH North has been preparing. We could also do some games activity like this when we meet in August, like to learn from each other some song or some dance, or to encourage them to ask someone, could you please for the next time ask someone and share it then later with us. So ask your grandmother, or ask your daughter, or ask your neighbor some song from their culture. And also the vision for the autumn, because this project will finish these sessions in August, end of August, so we thought that it's interesting to try that this continues, and perhaps the research and development department in the Novia University might be interested to, I am trying that, if they would be interested to continue this kind of project, because there is a lot of students and from different parts of the world. And yes, so let's hope that it continues and it can run, and it can be like a free place for people to join and play. Yeah, there has to be a free place for that. And I think, is it 1 minute or? Yeah, 1 minute. Okay, so then we have this, can you help to do some vote? So, shall we continue with the name of musical living rooms? Or do you think it's a little bit strange concept? This is one possibility, to keep this name. The other option is to call it World Music Session, or join us for a musical dinner. What do you think? This is what is your opinion? Could we, like make these votes? Because I'm not sure if the name is the right name when we make this publicity. Musical living room. Huh? What is this exactly? Not sure if people understand. So, do you like to continue
comment?
this?
No, I can comment. That's a great name. If you pick the World Music Session, world music is a music business marketing term.
Mm.
Don't pick up that. And then when you get tired to make the dinners, it's better that you promise to have a dinner. So
yeah, there it has to be a dinner.
So stay to the musical room.
It sounds okay? Okay.
Yeah, I agree.
You agree?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Okay, so we agree that this is a good name then?
Yeah.
Okay, yes. But then from this last, I have this feeling that it would be good to have food around.
Yeah.
I think that is needed, but who brings the food? That is my question, like, shall we say share food? Oh, yeah, so that is the next question. But I believe that if there is more food, it will be more relaxed, and in a way that we can be eating, and I know some of the participants play guitar and they like to play their compositions, so it would be very nice that meanwhile some people is eating, one is playing, and then we all sing something, and so I think that is the direction to have some space like this. But let's see how it goes now. We continue in August, and if anyone has comments, please, so you can share. Yes. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosa.
Thank you.
Then we have Outi Valo, Heidi Henriikka Mäkelä.
Seems like there are some problems with the technical devices.
Here. Sorry. No.
Oh, okay.
Yes, thank you so much, and thank you, Roser, for the interesting presentation that you had here earlier. So, we are now talking about one of the side projects also of this project in a way that it's not directly from the project, but we were quite inspired of the working package with the archives when we were planning this article with Heidi. So this is a more academic product, maybe in some near future that we are planning, and these are quite preliminary thoughts that we are now presenting you, and we are really happy to hear if you have some kind of comments or ideas for us how to continue further. And yeah, I could say about myself that I work in here in the institute and also in this project ICS Note in the work package with archives, and I'm also a researcher now in the University of the Arts Helsinki, and I'm making this article with my colleague Heidi.
I'm Heidi Henriikka Mäkelä. I'm a lecturer in folk music at the University of the Arts Helsinki, and I also am a researcher at the University of Helsinki, and I hold a docentship in folklore studies.
So the presentation today, we are looking about these archival recordings and folk music. So first we are introducing a little about the background that we are thinking with this article to go ahead. Then we are using this concept of imaginary field trips, and we will tell more about that as well. And maybe a new proposal for culturally sustainable field trips to historical folk music.
So, first to provide you a little bit background of archival recordings and folk music in Finland. In the background there is the huge paradigm of comparative musicology that is also, of course, the background of European musicology as well, or ethnomusicology. And it was founded in the 19th century. And the task of comparative musicology was to compare the musical products of different peoples, countries and regions, especially folk songs for ethnographic purposes, and to organize and classify them according to their characteristics. So this perspective it was closely tied to European nationalisms as well as European colonialism. And Finland was one of the leading areas in comparative musicology, and that was because there was this one figure called a person called Ilmari Kruun, who invented the classification system for folk melodies. And he was influenced by the geographical historical method of folklore studies in Finland at that time, and he had many followers and students in Finland, and this led to extensive archival collections. So this idea of comparative musicology and the geographical historical method, they led to these very vast archival collections in Finland. And this research was inherently nationalistic, of course, but it was also widely international, as this idea of comparative musicology was widely acknowledged in all Europe. perspective of comparative musicology, there were several kind of problems that we can kind of what we think today. And those problems also influenced the archives. And the first problem was that when they collected these folk songs and folk music materials, there were this kind of ideal of minimizing the presenters or those who played the songs or sang the songs. So the cultural context of the music was in the background. They were interested in the melodies and the structures of the music itself. And they also transcribed the music into the Western tonal system, and these caused problems. For instance, different kinds of micro intervals, local tonal systems, free of rhythm structures and so forth were lost in those processes. They also had this kind of ideal that comparing these melodies and structures of music, they could go back in time and see what's most archaic or most kind of oldest materials when so it was part of the method. But of course this is not that easy, and these materials does not necessarily allow us to actually see or hear back in time. We think today that these archival materials reflect their own time. The ideals of nationalism and Eurocentrism were also ideological aspects that were present in the objectives of this research, and consequently it also, of course, influenced the results and collections. In Finland, the emergence of ethnomusicology happened in the 1970s, and this drew attention to new directions, which means that there were more field work, ethnomusicological field work, and these kinds of new projects. And also in the 1960s and 1970s, the revival of folk music happened in Finland. But these old archival recordings, the oldest of archival recordings are from the beginning of the 20th century, that were produced through this comparative research, had and continue to have a strong influence on the so-called folk music revival, that the music we hear here in Kaustinen today. It's heavily influenced by those recordings and all those different kinds of sheet music that emerge from that perspective. So now we are going to talk about the imaginary field trips to historical folk music. That is a concept by Heikki Laitinen. Heikki Laitinen was an influential person in Finnish folk music. He's still alive, but he's quite old at the moment. I don't know if he's here in Kaustinen today. Maybe you could see him. So he was a very influential person in Finnish folk music revival, professional folk music from the 1980s to the beginning of the 2010s. And his ideas are very strongly present in Finnish folk music. When you go to see, especially when you go to see professional folk musicians here today in Kaustinen, you will probably hear some echoes about the imaginary field trips ideas, even though they don't discuss about those aloud, but they are there still. So this idea was, Laitinen thought that there could be this kind of creative way that could be additional method to study archival materials, musical scores, museum artifacts, contemporary descriptions and research. So he then had this idea that there could be these kinds of field trips done, that they're imaginary. And he said that there are different kind of stages to do these imaginary field trips. The first one would be the learning about the background. Second one, finding empathy for the research subjects, who would be the old players from the 19th century, for instance. And he also said that one should prepare for unexpected encounters. And the most important aspect in this method was that you need to use your imagination, close your eyes and let the material take you away, said Laitinen. And he also said that that you will succeed on your trips when you have enough knowledge of folk music traditions and knowledge of ethnomusicological fieldwork. So the idea was that the musicians would go to the archives and listen to the materials and then close her eyes and start to play with them and also creatively use the materials for her own purposes, for instance. However, we argue with Outi, or this is our idea today, that this kind of dialogue with archival recordings is impossible in many ways, because the communication is inevitably one way. And one should also consider her own position. What are the starting points for our own imaginations? There are limitations, for instance, what kind of silences and biases are there already present in those archival collections, and what are my own biases and limitations I have when I go to the archive. For instance, I'm a white woman who listens to these archival materials, and it's a certain perspective to those materials. Also, when we consider about the old materials we have, for instance, here in Kaustinen archives, Outi, can you tell more about this?
Sorry, the pictures text are in Finnish, but I will translate them. So these are the pictures of how, for which part of the Finland, for example, this very famous collector Erkki Alakene made his field trips. And the upper picture is the music performance collected by men. So it was more than 600 tunes performed by men, and there are more than 600 tunes. And likewise, in the 1940s, the same century, only 6 performings performed by women, and still there were more women playing. Also, the amount of tunes that they recorded from single women were less than from, for example, just single men playing music.
So this is a kind of a bias that we have in those collections in the archives.
Mm-hmm. So now we are looking more about this culturally sustainable field trips to historical music. And so we are thinking about there are 3 kind of things for how this culturally sustainably could be achieved. Community involvement is of course very important and also inspired of this UNESCO 2003 Convention for Safeguarding Intangible Cultural Heritage. Then the second one is the potential for change, and future-oriented research as well is the third one proposed. And maybe you can tell more about the picture here.
Yeah, so we have this idea that we have this kind of a tube where we have the historical material, the archival materials about folk music, Finnish folk music in this case, but of course this could be applied in anywhere. And then there is the musician, and then there is the community involvement circle as well. So before, in this imaginary field trips, there were also only the musician and the historical materials. But now we want to add the community involvement ball with them. And we have some ideas how to do this, and Outi could tell
So,
more about that.
What could this mean for music collections in a way, in a practical matter? So, like I said, in the UNESCO Convention of Safeguarding the Intangible Heritage, actually the right of the communities are mentioned several times. And what could it be related to the archives in practice? It could mean that how the communities could define how the material is part of the collections, how it's used, presented and disseminated. And these are also the themes in our working package in the ICH North. And I have here some bubbles where you see the artist or the archival research, then the archive collections and the communities. And if we look up the older recordings, we can see that usually the communities are the place where the recorder or the collector went. Then they brought the material to the archive collections, and then the artists or the archival research is looking at these collections through the archive and not really through the communities. And so it could be also go though that they are giving back the material to the communities, but now we are looking about this direction that could be this the new one, that and so also they are, if we have this archive collection, they would go always through the communities to the artists or to the archival research. And in this project we are making these kind of workshops with the practitioners, and it was the idea that we could also maybe use these workshops in our material in this article. So the themes were in our archive package was the ownership of the collections, the involvement of communities in documentation work, so they could actually decide that what kind of situations we should, for example, record, where, for example, the heritage is transmitted from generation to generation. And one example here are, for example, the musical jams that usually where the tradition also is transmitted, but we are, for example, not much recording them at the moment in the archive. And also dissemination or making public the materials, that who we should make them public or what kind of ways. So we are discussing with the practitioners in the workshops, and we are also always starting with the concrete archival collections. So we have what they actually identify with, and then we are talking about these themes in the workshop together with the musicians, for example, in this group, that how the ownership issues goes, or how what kind of things we should collect in future. And for example, now we have made one workshop with one Kaustinen village groups, and it was very nice experience, and it really inspired us to go forward with this topic. And so one of the results of the project is, of course, the roadmap, and then this research article might be also one of the goals that we are looking up with Heidi now.
So I think that one of the ideas here is that these imaginary field trips are done together with the community. So the situation we hope that would be today, that if we, for instance, in Kaustinen here, you have a lot of Kaustinen folk music archival recordings, and when an artist goes to the archives, then she could perhaps discuss with the community, and what do you think about this archival recording, and what aspects are there, and then kind of adopt those ideas to her own playing, for instance. These kinds of processes we are looking for here. And especially in the Kaustinen folk fiddle playing case, this is, you can say if I'm wrong, but it's quite open culture today here in Finland. So it's the ownership problems with that music are not that strong. But there are also cultures in Finland, for instance, Sami music or lament tradition from Karelia, that is a border area in Finland and Russia, where these ownership questions are totally different. So it would be a colonialistic thing to do, to go to the archival recordings of Karelian laments, for instance, and to say, just start to perform them and consider those laments as your own, because the Karelian community today in Finland would be quite disappointed with that kind of act. So we would want to kind of provide these new tools to communicate with the communities in these kinds of situations.
Yeah, and we also hope that when, for example, students are making their own things with the music, they could also see what kind of discussion we have had and think that, okay, should I think more about these issues, for example, in my work as well. And we also have a survey of use these music collections. That is one of the project things. So if you have any contacts who could fill up this questionnaire, we really hope also answers were there as well. And that might be also material that we are using in this article. So there's the QR code for to use and to also share to others as well.
So if you use any kinds of music collections, archival collections, please reply.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It's really interesting. And then we have Bengt. Is it Britta Knapp also? Or is it just Bengt? Yeah. Thank you, Britta Knapp.
Yeah, great. Ska vi inleda med det?
Vad sa du?
Vi inleder med det.
Ja, det är visst. Jag ska inleda
Thank you. It was Polska från Boda, a small parish in mid-Dalarna in Sweden. But is it possible to make an UNESCO inscription for a certain type of tunes and dance? We have discussed this with Norwegian and Finnish partners because the Polska is spread all over the Scandinavian area. There is also Polska in Denmark. And this is a thing to see what's similar, what is the certain things of the local traditions and how can it be connected. But what is the inscription talk about? And you know this? Today UNESCO have as an international organization, registered the clinker boat, as you maybe many of you know, and the tradition of building, and connected to also use them, of course. It also last year listed the summer farming, fäbodrift, in the northern part of the Scandinavia area is used fäbodar or summer farming for the cattle and for another way of farming than the modern in the area. It is also a suggestion to list deep net fishing, or to we have not the picture, but you use hov, fiske in Swedish, of sik or whitefish. That's today, but to have an international nomination, you also have to be listed nationally. So today, about dance and music, there is practice of traditional music in Sätesdal, it's local or regional area in southern Norway. As you know, the Kaustinen fiddling and fiddle playing in this area, and the Inuit drum and dancing. Also connected to the music, it's as you know, nyckelharpa. There is also nyckelharpa tradition in Ostrobothnia with the Esse-harpa, and it has been, the use of nyckelharpa is quite spread nowadays, but started in mid-Sweden. And of course they have listed also traditional costume, folkdräkter, today. And in the national listing there is a lot of examples of dancing and music in Denmark, those, and in Norway too, and with the very local thinking of dancing and music as a part of bigger Polska tradition. Ask me if you have some questions about what's listed. Langelek is a certain Norwegian folk music instrument. Is there any Langelek present this year? We don't know. It's an instrument, also in music, certain music tradition. Also, the kapplek is listed, a certain way of compete in dancing and playing in Norway. And we have competitions in Sweden too, but it's not only list. This is also the what called to connect to children and youngsters, the clapping and chanting maybe, and the midsummer tradition is not very old in Sweden. It's more or less 100 or 130 years, but it's accepted as a long period of the same tradition used. This is the list of what's on the national list in Finland, and also those. But the Polska is a sort of, as the previous presentation talked about, some sort of categorizing and research perspectives. We know that Polska as a name for a certain type of music start to be used in 1840s and 1850s in most areas in Sweden. Before that, the texts or notes is described as other tunes. So it shows up in notebooks from a certain period. How can you see some similar things in documentation in Finland? When do Polska start to be used? Polonesa. That's before.
Yeah.
The older, yeah. And I think this could be something to also include in this. What do it remains from? And that's important to have the history of a tradition like Polska. What's similar and what's the long time perspectives of it. And when we describe this for the Swedish list, we want to include both the very local traditions, the traditions who were still used in a certain place. But in Sweden, we talk about it like it's red listed. It's very few places where dance and music still are used as it was described. Maybe 50 or 80 years ago. And it's more or less the same situation in Finland and Norway, but it's also a modern way of use it. Some researchers call it Festival Polska. It's a mix of the traditions to the contemporary folk music playing, and it's another way of bring it today, and to have it. This may be the way we have to introduce the local traditions and have a strong area for both the local and the more contemporary Polska forms. I think we deal with this in different ways in the Nordic countries, and I hope we can discuss and describe it also the way of say it, and it's which way we use it's maybe not important, but to have it used is the main. And Today, there is interest from the Norwegian Center of Traditional Music and Dance in Trondheim. They want to discuss this, and they have the status as a UNESCO NGO for traditional music and dance. So they are right in the area and important as a partner. This Finnish Swedish Folk Music Institute and Finnish Folk Music is of course important, and there is maybe an interest from Visarkivet in Sverige and Folkdansringen, maybe also Sveriges Spelmans Riksförbund. We'll see. But it's important to have the partners who organize the practitioners, of course, to form and to also, the idea with the UNESCO branding is to give it stronger place and to lift it for formal reasons and so on, and of course to inform more people to understand the importance of Polska. Yeah, that's what we are planning. We'll see what we can do, and shall we? As I said, Boda, maybe the only place in Sweden there we have had this tradition for the whole last century. It's dancing and playing. There's many places, not many, but quite many areas where the music is rather strong in Sweden, but when the dance and the music is so tight together and live since the whole period is very special. So we not Britta, we had a presentation of the dance and music at the 10th earlier, so we dressed up for that.
Vad ska vi spela då? Ska vi spela någon äldre eller?
Ja, det kan vi. Vad ska vi ta med? Ja. The first tune was more modern type of Boda Polska. Now it's an older, it's a bit, thank you. It's generations of fillers and, when new instruments add, you have to deal with Duramol and all that. This is maybe from the beginning of the 20th century. Or?
Jag skulle man säga det var det äldsta.
Ja.
Vi spelar en gång med repris bara då.
Ja, vi kan spela en två.
Ska vi två?
Jag vet inte.
Björkholm, and I currently work at the Finland-Swedish Folk Music Institute. I've been a part of the ICH North team since the beginning of the project, and I'm very happy to be here today to talk a bit about what happens when we pass on traditions. So I was part of the work package 3, which is about educational materials. And when I have tried thinking about, we create these different packages for teams of folk musicians, fiddlers, organizations, so what might they need? I thought it's very important to talk about what does it actually mean to pass on something and how can we understand it. So this is also part of the MOOC, the massive open online course that we're producing, and I thought I'd just talk to you a little bit about my understanding of these things today. So I'll start with a little bit of vocabulary. My academic background is within folkloristics, so I feel I need to start by defining what I mean with traditions. And to me, that's the process that somehow transfers older historical practices to new generations, to current use. When we talk about tradition in everyday language, we often refer to something as traditional, meaning that it has somehow roots in the past. But if you think about traditions as something we still practice today, this process of somehow passing it on becomes significant. And that's what I want to focus on. So also, when we talk about intangible cultural heritage, here I mean traditions that we somehow feel valuable or meaningful enough that we want to keep them in practice also in the future. And I would like to point out that there is a varying vocabulary within this area. So for example, in Finland and Sweden, we often talk about intangible cultural heritage in terminology of living heritage. I don't think this is as common in other parts of the world. So I think it's important to always remember, to ask about these things, that what are we actually talking about? And can, for example, traditions be something else than living? Is it then only historic and so forth? So, terminology can be a bit tricky. But for me, when I think about these things, I feel that somehow traditional knowledge is a good starting point if you start to think about what it means to pass on traditions. So there are all these different domains. If you, for example, look at the UNESCO conventions, different sort of traditional knowledge that you need, for example, if you build a boat, as these guys here, or if you're going to prepare traditional food, if you're going to do some kind of handicraft, but also if you're a good traditional storyteller, you need certain types of traditional knowledge to be a good storyteller, or to be a good musician or a dancer. And these types of traditional knowledge are directly transmitted from one person to the next. That's the most common case. So some kind of human interaction, that's the very most common way of doing it. What's also very important to remember about these sorts of traditional knowledge is that people carry the possibility to act them out once they know them, but you can't see it unless they choose to somehow act it out. And I think this is very important to remember if you talk about passing on tradition, that you need to give knowledgeable people the opportunity to act out their knowledge together with new people. And during these performances then the cultural elements can be observed, they can be passed on, and they can also be documented. So what is needed then for passing on traditional knowledge? I'll just tell you a little bit about this picture you see here. This is from one of the projects carried out within Kåll-Fröjdö, one of the ICH North partners. So this is a project where one of the local museums, you will find it pretty much straight west of here. This is Bosund in Larsmo. And they wanted to build a traditional boat. This is an archipelago community. And they have always built clinker boats. But no one really does it anymore because you need a hall to build it in, you need special tools, you need good materials, and you need lots of time. So this project was building a community boat, basically. And they needed a platform where people of different generations could meet and learn and pass on this traditional knowledge. And I think that is precisely what you see here. The expertise is the gentleman in the light grey hat. He's the one that really knows what they're doing, and all the others are there observing and taking on as much traditional knowledge as they can. And then, this is him again steering the ready boat. This is another part of the traditional knowledge, how to actually use the boat. How to get a sail, how to use it, how to row the boat. There's so much to these traditional boats, and not that many people know the entire picture today. What I try to point out in his cases is the platforms. We need places to get together, and also many times socialization is a part of these things. That you spend time together, you do things together, practical things. You don't necessarily need to talk that much apart from what you're doing in practice. It's very, very good to just, finding common space. And traditional knowledge, when you talk about how to actually do things, the way I understanding it is that you use your body and possibly tools to embody this knowledge. And it is often tacit knowledge, things that you don't really have vocabulary for. It's difficult to explain without using your body and the tools what someone else is supposed to do. So you really need these platforms because it's so much easier to demonstrate it than to explain it. And although this practical knowledge can result in lasting cultural expressions such as the boat here, or writing, or food, it's the knowledge in itself that's intangible, and that's what we need to safeguard and pass on somehow. And another thing that I have found in my experience, it's very important to remember that the traditional knowledge also always means that we work with individuals. It's not tradition as something that just flows around in a community. It's the individuals that carry and are able to carry out this tradition that should always be the center of any kind of safeguarding. And in order to safeguard, they need to interact with young people. Then we have awareness. Not everyone are able to carry out know-how, but a lot of people know that. The awareness of how traditional knowledge works and what it means. The difference I feel between know-how and know that is to a large extent a question about experience. If you haven't tried actually carrying out the traditional knowledge, it is a bit of a threshold to pass over before you feel comfortable in actually practicing. But awareness, know that, is very important because it means that we have a community, a lot of people understanding what the traditional knowledge means and why it is meaningful to people. And also, to some way, this also means that they have an understanding for the values and what was meaningful to older generations. So this is in some way is very important to communities to create a sense of belonging. Then when it comes to passing on traditional or traditions, could this be simply said as safeguarding living heritage? I feel in many ways it does. Again, I would first of all want to point out that it is very important when we talk about safeguarding to be careful about the terminology, because in various languages we use different terminology and sometimes we imply that conservation is part of safeguarding. That doesn't work very well with intangible cultural heritage. So it's important to be mindful of these things. But when someone comes to me and wants to discuss safeguarding, I always start by discussing, the desired outcome. What is it you want to achieve when we talk about safeguarding? Is it maintained knowledge, as in continued tradition? Do we want to document how the tradition is carried out today and add it to an archive, so we have like this safe documentation someplace? Or is it somehow conservation of objects or building, like a museum or museum area? These are all very common and very well working ways of maintaining traditional stuff, but the outcome is very different, what sort of effect they have. And if you talk about tangible cultural heritage such as preserving objects and buildings, you need to think about culture as an object. It's the object that we're going to safeguard and pass on to the future. Oftentimes that means that you take like one object, treat it in a special way so that can physically be passed on through conservation. If you talk about intangible cultural heritage, we are talking about upholding traditional knowledge. Then we need to think about culture as a process. We need to think about how we can make practices continue and how we can transmit the knowledge to new people. So the intention when we talk about safeguarding and about cultural heritage overall is always that someone wants something to be present in the future, but the methodology for how to go about that is different. So, according to me, the very easiest way or strategy for passing on traditional knowledge is to make sure that children have the opportunities to participate, observe, be part of traditional knowledge. This way they gain experience and start to learn the traditional knowledge that is needed. Historically, there has been a big focus on documentation when it comes to living heritage and traditional stuff. I love documentations and archives. They're so interesting and you can learn so much from them. But my understanding is that a documentation is in one way a snapshot of the tradition. It is not the tradition as such. And when I have been thinking about these things, my metaphor is that tradition can be compared to a chain through time, where every practitioner or performance, I'm looking for that word, is one chain, one link in the chain. And when no one is performing anymore, the chain will not be any longer. So a documentation then is a snapshot of one link in the long chain. And this is very, very important to gain knowledge about the performances and all the stages of the tradition, and also in order to receive information about repertoire, motifs, techniques, and so on. But if we say, and you see this a lot in media, something has been documented somehow, and they say, oh, the tradition is now preserved for all eternity. Then we have to ask, what do we mean by that, and in what way is it preserved? What do we want to obtain? One important thing to remember when talking about safeguarding and living traditions is that traditions will always change. Creativity is an integrated part of tradition. People will make new combinations, new interpretations, and my favorite way of talking about this thing is to stressing that tradition is always both dynamic and conservative. And conservative, especially if we talk about local tradition, because people need to recognize their tradition as their own, and they will be conservative to some measure in that respect. A problem that is very commonly stressed when talking about intangible cultural heritage and living tradition is freezing, that somehow you try to regulate the traditional stuff so it cannot change. And this can lead to the fact that the tradition stop feeling more like a display than as actual, performance. But I think in many ways this says more about established views on what safeguarding means than real unsolvable problems. Then I would like to say a few words about desired function. Now I have a picture here of a gentleman from my neighboring island doing some ice fishing here. This is called notdragning in Swedish. So they're using this huge net under the ice in order to catch herring. This was very, very important for the archipelago coastal population in Finland in the old days. Currently, no one really does it. This is a display. They have received money in order to hire the equipment needed, and they showcase how it's done out on the ice in wintertime. And there's loads of people there wanting to come and look at this because it's very interesting, and we know this is what people used to do, and you never see it anymore. But the function, they don't do this for the fish. That's not important. They do this because they want to display the traditional knowledge and its meaning. And this is something I think important to keep in mind, that the intention of this past, present, future when it comes to traditional knowledge, that's always there, but the function can be completely different currently than what it used to be. And when shows and demonstrations become more important than the traditional meaning of the traditional knowledge, it can turn into a bit of metaculture. We're doing something that looks like performance, but if the meaning still is there, it's still meaningful for people, I don't think there's a reason to try to stop it. I'm sure that many of you have experiences of safeguarding here, and I would now like you to think about why does your community feel that it's important to pass on traditions? I have a few suggestions here why people tend to find it important to safeguard. And I think the overall most common themes are about exchange of experiences. the platforms that traditional knowledge creates between generations and the arenas for social interaction. This is something very, very important. So through safeguarding measures, we create understanding for traditional and cultural viewpoints and about what we consider important or valued. And through sharing these types of experiences, people just feel connected. I also have this hobby that I tend to ask people about why they are involved in safeguarding. And why do they spend time and energies within these sorts of activities? And the answers I tend to get is that it's rewarding. I feel I'm doing something meaningful. And it might be very difficult for people to express more clearly than that what they mean. If you talk to practitioners, people dealing with know-how, they often talk about how joyous and fun their tradition is. It makes them happy. It's a way of socializing, these sorts of things. And then this one I have particularly gotten from handicraft people and musicians. I know I'm very skillful within my tradition, and that feels great. When we talk about people dealing mainly with know that through different kinds of local heritage associations and so, they tend to talk about that they want to create understanding and belonging through their safeguarding measure, and that feels very rewarding to them. And if we go back to this first feeling of doing something meaningful, an extension of that is that you know, the feeling that I'm upholding a tradition is something that people often state, but they can't really say more than that. That's important in themselves, to be upholding a tradition. So now I'm just going to kind of round this all up and talk about, you know, overall what happens, if you ask me, when we pass on traditions. We perform traditional knowledge. We make sure others learn, and that entails both know-how, the practical knowledge, and know that, the awareness, what this means. And this then means that we're safeguarding ICH through continued practice. We also create platforms for interaction between people. And these platforms form a tool for resilient communities in ways, because they mean that people talk to each other and learn to understand each other to some extent. And then we engage in cultural elements that we feel are meaningful to ourselves. And now I haven't really said anything about traditional music, because I think this is the same principles that goes over all the different domains when we talk about intangible cultural heritage. But I think from an ICH North point of view, it's important to talk about these mechanisms, and then we can start talking about the fiddlers team and the youth groups and all this within the folk music sector. So that's all from me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Johanna. And then next up we have Annika Mylläri Kati Hyvönen.
While we're looking at that, let's raise our arms up and our shoulders up. Big breath in, big breath out, and the shoulders out. And one more time. Really tight. And breath out. And shake. Everything. Shake everything that shakes. Sitting. Okay. Am I in front of this? My name is Annika Mylläri. I come from Centria University of Applied Sciences at Kokkola campus. We have 3 campuses. I'm the head of music pedagogy program. We have music teachers, instrument teachers, all kinds of choir leaders and people like that in a 4-year bachelor's program. And that's my part.
I'm Kati Hyvönen, also from Centria, and in this project I've been working with the communications and then this whole course.
Yes, and Kati works for the research department and I'm in the teaching. And actually I need my iPad, sorry. I have just said that we're going to be really quick, 10 minutes, but let's see if we're late. I need to tell you a little bit more that's not there. So this is the course. Do you know what Massive Open Online Course is? Who doesn't know? You all know. It's a course you can take online free, no cost, anywhere in the world. And then if you need credits for your university or any kind of school, you can get credits by completing assignments. And then you get, we will give those credits from Centria or from Tromsø University. So we're doing this together. And we have modules, and I'm trying to get here we go. I'll tell them, this is the subject of the course, safeguarding of musical heritage in the north of Finland, Sweden and Norway, including Sápmi. And anyone can attend, and material is open source and available 2025. At the end, we're actually piloting in the fall, and then maybe 26 it will be in the edX platform, international platform. Here are the modules. I'll tell them, and we will go through each module sort of separately very shortly. Module 1, what is intangible cultural heritage in music? What could it be? Number 2, communities and music as part of traditional cultures, diversity of cultures. Number 3, varieties of musical traditions, talking about genres and instruments. Number 4, indigenous musical heritage. We only have one indigenous group in the northernmost part in the Aurora area, which is the Sami people and Sami music. 5, musical minorities and migration. And number 6, safeguarding and sharing intangible musical heritage. And number 7, intangible cultural heritage and unwritten rules, which is what Johanna was going over today. So we don't have to go into all of the details, and also you talked about the safeguarding a lot. But we'll talk about a few things. You can read the first one,
Yeah. So the first one is introducing the topic, the intangible cultural heritage, and we talk about the concept, so you will learn about the terms and of course a lot of them from the point of view of UNESCO. And then it's about the community, so what do we mean with the community in this context, and also the intergenerational context. So what Johanna was talking about too, that it's important that you make the mix, so the knowledge is transferred, and then there will be examples, so you will kind of learn to identify what it is and when you see it.
And each module, I'll only tell this about the first module. They will have an introduction, which is a video and information about contents, what you will learn, this type of thing. There will be some reading materials on history and background. There will be a video lecture by either a professional, a specialist, or a tradition bearer, or some appropriate person for that module. There will be some music examples that will come from our digital map, and there will be some geographical information and information about the communities that are involved in that particular module. And then there will be the assignments if you choose to get credits for the course, and links, literature, videos, and other resources that are appropriate. So each module will have this type of run through.
And one. So we'll kind of introduce the area, different musical communities, and then also with the links and with the material, we will teach how you will find more information. And then there's also change and variation, so through times and also between regions. So we talk about that a little bit, and then also some instruments that are characteristic in the area.
Yes, and each module will we have set up advisors from our own group from this project, our Swedish and Norwegian and Finnish group. And for example, for this number 2, the advisors who will look over what Michal Strobelt and myself will put in this course and advise us are Johanna Björkholm, Bengt Wittgren and Therese Hugesson, who's not here today. So each module will have overseeing. We're not pretending to know all of this ourselves.
Then we go more to the communities. And here you will learn how the music reflects the values and traditions of the culture, and both on how it affects on the identity on personal and community level, and how the music can be part of the changes also in the society, how you can see the change in the music, so both ways. And in this part I think we have a lot of from the community experts.
Yes, there'll be a lot of dance tunes, instruments, and different styles, just presenting an overview from our area.
And the minorities and migration. So this is about transmitting the musical heritage when you have a multicultural setting. Also interesting to have some comments maybe from the musical living room for this one. And we have examples of minorities passing on their musical heritage, which challenges they faced, and examples of successes in that. And we have this one is kind of like the music as a bridge part. So we will have examples of that.
And some of the minorities that we have in the northern area is in Norway, Kven, and we have Tornedalingar in Sweden, Lantalaiset, Meänkieli, all of these different groups, mostly Finnish people who have moved to either Sweden or Norway. So we'll present those minorities and migration in this area, in this section. We also have other groups in the Aurora area, like in Finland there's an Iranian group that is being active now. Of course the Swedish-speaking Finns, which we have some representatives here. That is a minority group, and we are presenting that also in a way that you, representatives, would like it to be presented.
And the indigenous part. So again, we will introduce the concept of indigenous cultures, what the terms mean, and then go more deeper into the indigenous people in the Aurora region, so the Sapmi, and we'll introduce the different styles of yoik, and also the different stakeholders that are kind of somehow related to or supporting the communities.
Yes, this is a sensitive issue, as we already, I think Henriikka talked about this. You know, cultural appropriation is not far from this if we handle it in the wrong way, this information. So we have Sami representatives, one from the Finnish Sami area and one from Norwegian Sami area, who have agreed to make the video lectures, talk about their traditions in their way, and we will have examples that they have approved or suggested, and all the text that we put in here will be approved by them or suggested by them. So that's the way we're going to deal with this. I can't pretend to even coordinate this type of material since I'm not from this group. But there'll be interviews, dialogues, things like that. interesting stuff, I think this will be.
Then about safeguarding and sharing. So it's about passing on the heritage, and Johanna's lecture will be one part of this module. And we also introduced the different initiatives that have been done for safeguarding, so different practices. And also there's information about the role of archives and museums in this kind of two-way safeguarding, how the communities and the archives can work together.
Actually, in our other version that we presented to the advisory board, we had Module 7, which might still appear, and that is called Intangible Cultural Heritage and Unwritten Rules, which is more what Johanna was talking about. It might be good to have in the end of the whole course or a short overall view of this and not talk about music. So this will be organized mostly in August actually, and then we will have in the Centria's platform, learning platform, anybody can take this course. Johanna can take this course, anybody who's interested, and give us feedback, comments, and if any of you are interested, I can get you access to the course, and you can honestly say, was this useful? Was this fun? Was this informative? Did you get inspiration? And then after that, we will move the course onto the edX platform. That's it for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Annika and Kati. And this was all for today, the program. We have kind of 3 minutes for questions and comments. No. But if you have any comments or something you'd like to discuss, just let us know. And you can, of course, grab any of us in the project group after this seminar and ask more, or contact us afterwards. So, if there are no questions, I would like to thank you for listening to us today, and hope that you will follow our project until December when it ends. And we have the happy news that Interreg Aurora have approved of a new project called
ICH
Edu North. That will, it will work with the priority area education and lifelong learning. So in a different, slightly different way, but with the same theme. So we're happy to continue in that way. And for the ICH North crew or anybody that feels that you are related to the project, I would like to have a group photo. So don't go away. We can take a group photo right away. So if you are part of the crew or feel that you kind of belong to the ICH North family, you can join us for a photo. So I think we can take it just here. So thank you.